Welcome back to the channel, everybody, and to another Fortnite tips and tricks video. And this video here is my top 10 underrated drop spots for Chapter 5, Season 3. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. So the very first drop spot here is called the Wreck Mill. Now this is pretty central to the outskirts of the desert and the middle map, and is also very close to all three Mythic Boss locations. Now, this drop spot also has a chance for there to be a weapon bunker to spawn and open up in the third storm zone. Now, if you go down this zip line in the middle, you can grab yourself 2 chests every single game, and if you jump in the water, it's the slurp water that will also heal you over time. So you have guaranteed full health and shields every single game, or just a spot you can retreat to if you get into trouble and heal up if you need to. Granted, you have the time to heal up this way, but you also don't have to heal up this way either. Now, there's also a nice big house outside of it that's kind of half destroyed, and you can also find a couple chests for you to loot inside here, although they can sometimes be a little tricky to actually find where they are located. Now, also, the Jonesy NPC is here. He'll sell you a purple Thunderburst and Shield Bubble Juniors if you're interested, and weapons you buy from NPCs now have modifications on them, and there is also the Shadow Briefing Hidden Treasure quest, which will give you 2 epic chests if it spawns every single game that you can go dig up. Then there's also the mill itself, which has 2 levels, a few chests, a couple floor drops that you can loot, and also a few guaranteed slurp barrels that you get every single game. But now we're going to go on to the next spot, which is whenever the bosses are not at their designated POI, they will be out on control with a battle bus, and they will be driving their mythic car. So you can just simply land right on the hood of the car, and then crouch and just keep pickaxing the boss until they get out of their car, and then all you have to do after that is just drive off for a little bit. You can maybe grab some loot, come out and fight the boss, or you can just turn the turret on the boss, take them out, kill them, grab the medallion, grab the mythic gun, and then you're on your merry way. And you'll be surprised at how well this actually works. Literally, you can always get this car every single game by doing this, and it also works on Megalodon's car if he's out on patrol, but I do find he tends to swerve a little bit more and drive more crazy when you try to do this compared to the machinist. So do keep that in mind. Now, if they are damaging the car, the NPCs or other enemy players, the boss, if you're nearby a gas station, you can just keep driving back, hitting the healing pad, and then going back to keep chipping down at the boss and your guard's health until you eventually defeat them all and essentially get the medallion, the car, and the mythic weapon for free. So definitely don't sleep on this strategy. Although the cars have now been nerfed and you can see where the boss cars are on the map now, it's still a very viable strategy to use. And now on to the third spot. Now this is just going to be any gas station. Quite literally, any gas stations. Since cars are a very big part of the game this season with all the weapon mods, simply landing at a gas station and getting a fully modded car right off the rip can give you an advantage over other players early game. Also, gas stations tend to have a good chance for there to be a shadow briefing quest inside of them, and also sometimes they also do have vending machines which can offer you heals or weapons which you can buy, which now weapons from vending machines also come with attachments. The only downside to this is that your loot probably will not generally be the greatest, but again, you can just use the car to get advantages on fights on other players early game, take them out, and just keep cycling back to the gas station to repair the car over and over again, and just take their loot until you have some decent loot yourself. And also the car is mobility, so you can go wherever you want afterwards and play out the rest of your game. And hopefully get a victory royale while you're at it. And now let's get on to the fourth spot this season. And now this one's an oldie. It's kind of near where Snooty Steps used to be. It's like this like airport location building just kind of on the edge of the map near the desert. Now this place has quite a few floor spawns that you can acquire and loot up, and also quite a few chests on all the different levels, as well as ammo crates that you can loot. As a fairly big POI, so this spot should be more than enough loot for a duo, maybe even a trio. And now, since it is on the edge of the map, it's usually not contested very much, so if you're a player who likes to kind of loot up a little bit and get a good loadout and heal up before starting your game, this might be a good spot for you. And it's also fairly close to the desert. Now there's also a reboot van outside that you can use in order to reboot your teammates if you do get into some trouble. And there usually is also some vehicles that you can use for transportation and some gas stations fairly close by where you can grab some mods for your vehicle as well. One of the only real downsides to landing at this location is its location on the map, as it is very close to the edge of the map. You're not really too likely to pull Storm Circle very often, so you will have to loot it up very quickly or run from Storm the whole game if you don't. Now there's also an NPC here who will sell you a purple combat shotgun and also Nuka-Cola, although I think they might have nerfed this, as last time I went there he only had nitro splashes. There's also two outbuildings which are fairly small, kind of like garages that you could also loot up that tend to have a chest or a couple of ammo crates inside of them. And in the very front parking lot, there's a chance for a buried treasure chest shadow briefing quest to spawn, giving you 2 rare chests, where you're lucky enough to have it spawn, making this a fairly decent drop spot for you to land at. Now, let's move on to the next drop spot. Now, this one is going to be the old plane crash site near Grand Glacier from Chapter 1. Now, this is a spot I feel like a lot of people may have forgotten about, but in Chapter 1, the plane kept falling down the mountain every time the snow was melting until it eventually falls into the lake. Now this is still here, and at the very top of the ledge here by the lake, you can find 2 chests on the one end and 3 slurp barrels, and there's also another chest by the other zip line on the other side. And now if you go down to the water, you can see the plane crash site, and this place is just littered with chests. There's quite a few chests here, so if you break this wing or land on top of it, there's usually 1 or 2 chests that you can get here and loot up, as well as I believe there's 4 slurp barrels just floating in the water. There might be more. They're kind of spread out all around the plane wreckage floating in the lake. And then at the main area where the plane is broken down, you can find usually 2 chests on each side of it. So that's another 4 chests on top of the 2 you already got at the beginning. So that's like 6 or 7 chests, I believe, already that I've been able to loot just landing at this little spot. And that is quite good. And the more chests you loot, the more likely you are to get the types of weapons that you are looking for. What makes this spot so good is the fact that you can just loot all this so very, very quickly. And now across the lake, there's also a chance for a forecast tower to spawn in, and also a bunker is right near that forecast tower, which gets even better. And now down on the dock, there's also fishing rods, so you can fish for some fast heals if you are playing ranked, or if you just get into a bind and need to. And inside this house, there's 3 more slurp barrels in the corner. There's a few chests littered around the place and ammo crates, as well as loot that can be hidden in the roof inside the attic, I guess. I don't know what you want to call it. The spot is also fairly far away from all the boss POIs, so you're less likely to run into those players early game. And on top of that, it's kind of on the edge of the map, but also kind of near the center, so you're not really going to have to be running from Storm the entire game. And there's also a porta potty outside of the house, which you can use, which will take you right up to Grand Glacier instantly, making the spot very viable for not only solos or duos, but trios and squads, as you guys can all just land there, then come up to Grand Glacier, or even split drop it. It's also fairly close to Mount Olympus and Reckless Railways for rotates. And now onto the next spot. Now this spot here has also been here since Chapter 1. It's some old beach houses down near the edge of the map. It's kind of near the airport location that I showed you earlier. There always seems to be a few vehicle spawns also in front of the 3 beach houses, and they've also added a mini Peabody gas station just up the hill from it, so you grab a few weapon mods. Now if you go down to the beach, there's this dock house, and there's a whole bunch of slurp barrels. You just break the floor and get all of them at once, giving you 80 shields every single game. There's also so much chests hidden in the roof, and there's also a boat with a launch pad which you can use for rotates on the dock, as well as there's also a fishing spot which you can utilize in ranked in order to get some quick and fast heals. Sometimes there's also some buried chests down the beach near the sand castles, and now these 3 houses are very easy to loot, and you can loot them very quickly. One of them also has a guaranteed safe spawn in it every single game, so you can always get a little bit of gold each time that you land here. Don't forget to also break the ceilings inside these houses, as they do like to hide floor drops up inside of the roof for whatever reason. The only real downside to this location is not near any big name POIs other than Sandy Steeps and Pleasant Piazza, but it is fairly close to a forecast tower spawn. And with that, we're going to go on to the next location. Now this spot's also been here since Season 1, Now, it used to be a little bit better, it used to be more mountains, it'd be a little bit different, but part of this spot has still survived. Now, there is a jump pad that you could use by the piano on top of this peak here that you can use to rotate. And if you go down to where the reboot van is, you can see there's a bunch of tents, kind of like a snowy campsite. You're going to find a couple slurp barrels here that you can break, as well as several ammo crates that you can loot, and several chests. There is a reboot van which you can use to reboot your teammates if you get into some trouble, and there are some Olympus-style buildings just down the bottom of the hill, which you can also get some loot from. The spot is also very close to Grand Glacier, as well as Mount Olympus. Now, you can also take the zip line here down to the small little outbuilding. I'm sure a lot of you already know about this place, but there's a couple slurp barrels outside of it. There'll be some ammo crates, as well as some weapons and ammo crates on top of the building. But when you go inside, there is a ton of slurp barrels all stacked up, and there can be up to 2 chest spawns in here. Now, you can simply break the floor here, and I'm pretty sure you'll get full shields every single time, making this quite a powerful spot just to land at for you and your team. Now, outside of this little building, if you run to the bushes, if you break the one bush, you will find a porta potty, which will bring you down inside of the secret cave. And now, on top of this spot just being very atmospheric, and you're going to have the gentle soothing song of the coral bunnies, there's also several shield mushrooms, tons of floor drops, quite a few chests. There are some slurp barrels in the corner by the porta potty, which you could also use as an exit, by the way, and also some ammo crates in that corner as well. Now, when you look around this area, you're going to find some chests are hidden in bushes. I think there's also a save spawn at the bush near the back of this little hidden room here inside the cave. And now, if you're a builds player, if you break all the stuff in here, you can actually get quite a few mats without anybody bothering you. And now, if you come over to this rock here in the water and break it, you're going to find a secret passageway. And that's going to lead you to another additional 2 chests that you can loot. But then now, if you continue on the pathway, you're going to find an even narrower passageway, which you will have to crouch walk in order to get through. And it is blocked by yet another chest, which you can loot. And if you break that chest, you can then get to the front entrance of the cave, where you're going to find 3 more chests that you can loot, making this a very viable spot for you and your team to land to start your game. And now let's move on to the next drop spot. Now, this one's also been here since Season 1. Now, it's kind of like this building that's kind of on the outskirts of the snow biome. And it's kind of like a medical building, it looks like, as there's a bunch of stretchers and cots inside of it, and there is a medic bot which you can hire on top of the tower. He'll also sell you a purple Harbinger SMG for 300 gold. Now, if you are a person who likes to use cars in combat, you may not want to hire an NPC, as sometimes they just will jump in the turret side of the vehicle and just not be effective at helping you shoot enemies and such with it, so do keep that in mind. Now, there are chest spawns and floor drops on the tower and around the tower, and there can also be some more item spawns at the helipad just to the left of it, but all where the main weapons and stuff are going to be is inside the main building. Now, there's usually chests hidden underneath all the staircases in this one main room and in the other rooms of the building. This location also always has to at least have 1 car spawn, and sometimes more, in the parking lot outside. There's also 3 slurp barrels, which are guaranteed spawns every single game. Now, there's plenty of rooms for you to loot on the bottom and on the upper levels, which are all littered with tons of forage spawns, more chests, and quite a few ammo crates, making this spot more than viable enough for a duo, maybe even a trio. There's also a reboot van in the front parking lot, which you can use to reboot your teammates if you get into any trouble. It also has a chance for there to be a vending machine spawn. And yep, you guessed it, another shadow briefing quest to go dig up some buried treasure and get 2 rare chests whenever it spawns. That's probably one of the best ways to get really good loot early game without going to a mythic boss POI. And now they've also added one of these Peabody gas stations just right beside this location, where you get 2 different mods for your vehicle every single game, or heal up your car if it gets into any trouble. And on top of that, there's also a chance for a weapon bunker to spawn in on the 3rd zone, making this a very good low-key drop spot for you and your team. But now let's move on to some other great drop spots for Season 3. Now, I'm going to start getting into the more named POIs, and this is none other than Classy Courts. Now this spot should not need any introductions as it has been player favorite for seasons now. Now the spot has a lot to offer for it as there's going to be guaranteed vehicles every single game in the parking lots. There's several big open courts, but they do have fences around them, so you do have some cover, making this place very good to fight in. There's tons of floor drops littered all throughout all of the tennis courts, and tons of chests, making the outside of this POI very easy for you to loot very quickly. Now there's also two outbuildings, and then there's the one main building. There's also a chance for a vending machine to spawn in the middle near the tennis courts. But now with the abundance of loot that you get at this location, it is usually going to be contested. There's probably at least enough loot here for 2 whole squads, maybe even 3. So if you're not a person who's very comfortable fighting early game, this spot might not be the greatest spot for you, but it is also very far from all the boss POIs, so you're less likely to have to deal with those players who have the mythic cars and mythic boss weapons earlier on in your game. It is more near the outskirts of the map though, so you very well may not have a whole lot of time to loot this area, and will have to end up moving quickly in order to not get stuck in the storm. It's also quite a distance from any other named POIs. I think the closest one to it is Lavish Lair, and it's still not exactly very close to this location. So once you leave Classy Courts, you're less likely to bump into a whole lot of players, as most of the other POIs around the area are smaller and unnamed locations. But this also means that the players you bump into are more likely to be players who are not very good fighters who like to play a more passive game and not just W key the entire lobby like a Mega Sweat Lord. Now there's also a chance for a shadow briefing airdrop to spawn outside of the big main building, and the spot also does tend to be a hot spot with drones very frequently, but the best thing about this spot is the fact that Oscar, one of the mythic bosses from season 1, is now here, and you can challenge him and get the mythic Frenzy Auto Shotgun, which is the only way to get a Frenzy Auto Shotgun this season. Not too shabby at all. And now on to the next spot, which would be Grim Gate. Now this spot also doesn't need any introductions. Now if you're a person who really hates having to fight against cards, landing anywhere in the underworld due to the entire landscape of the area, it's not a very great place to have to drive a car through. So that is one added bonus. Plus you have the green water, which you can fall into and get the 3 underworld dashes, which can also save your life when having to fight cars, as you can move out of the way of them very quickly. And now Grim Gates also has a whole slew of chests, ammo boxes, and ammo crates all over the place, and surprisingly actually a lot of slurp barrels as well. So you can guarantee yourself full shield every single game by landing here. And now the season is not as contested as it was last season, as there's no more medallion, but you can still choose to duel Cerberus just like you can duel Oscar at Classy Courts in order to get Cerberus's mythic Gatekeeper shotgun, which is still a shotgun that should not need any introduction to any of you, because it is one of the most overpowered shotguns that has ever been added to this game. And it's not something that you should really turn a blind eye to, as it still is and can be a major win condition, as you will outclass anybody who comes up to you close range as long as you have decent aim. You have this shotgun in your inventory. But alas, everybody, that will be it for this video, as we are at the end of this. I truly hope you enjoyed, and I hope that this helped you out. If it did, please let me know in the comments down below. Also feel free to share tips with anybody else in the Fortnite community if you think you have something that might help us all out. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't. I'm Big Papa Smurf 187. Be sure to have fun gaming, and hopefully I will catch you all on the next one. Now go and get that crowd win, folks. I know you got it in you. Bye for now.